I'm giving you this book. I hope you have it. Actually, I must have given this book to you yesterday. So in terms of you adding value to your business, there are models that you guys should always know, which are very, very popular in your exams. We call them the strategic models here. Like we have the Porter's value chain. Porter's value chain. Had you done this? Have you already done this in your class, in your normal class? Did you get time to discuss this Michael Porter's value chain? Michael Porter's value chain. Is it something that you guys have done? I will share, yes. Is it something that you guys have done? Michael Porter's value chain. So they're telling me, Mwalimu, this one, yes, we've done it. You even don't have to look at it. You even don't have to look at it. We are very lucky. We are very lucky. Yes, yes. Yes, I will share, Kevin. Yes, for sure I'll share. I'll share. Understandable way. Okay, now ladies and gentlemen, remember Porter's value chain has got two types of activities. We have what we call the secondary activities here on top, and then we have the primary activities down here. If we play on this lanes very well, we ensure that our primary activities are taken care of very well. We ensure that our secondary activities are taken care of very well. Then the company will always be in the red zone, in the profit zone. Now, these primary activities are normally 5. We have what we call inbound logistics. We have operations. We have outbound logistics. We have marketing and sales. And then we have after sales service. After sales, supposed to be after sales. You can take a screenshot of this after sales. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when we talk of Porter's value chain, according to Porter, the higher the value you add into your input, as input, ladies and gentlemen, the higher the price you'll be able to charge. Now, please listen to me. When I'm along Moi Avenue, on my right-hand side of Moi Avenue, I can see the famous Hilton Hotel, which closed down. If I go to Hilton today, if it was still there, I would have gotten a very good meal, having fish and whatever buffet, and I paid 4,500. But if I just get into this other road, which is on the left side, I go down Accra Road, I'll be able to get, in this case here, to some Mama Oliech, not Mama Oliech, but just some place there where I will be able to get a kibanda. And they get very nice fish for 300 shillings. And this fish, kibanda fish, could even be much sweeter, and even healthier than what I'll get in this case here at Hilton. Now, please, ladies and gentlemen, listen and listen to me very well. Why are we having price differentials here? And if you go to Hilton, during those days when it was still open, you would still get the place, in this case here, full, up to capacity. People are willing to part up with a premium to eat there. It's because of following of the Michael Porter's value chain. Hilton is adding a lot of value in all its activities, especially the primary activities. So like now, inbound logistics means that you're looking at, for example, how are we procuring our raw materials? When these raw materials come to the hotel, do we have, in this case here, very good warehouses with refrigerators? All right. So you see, like if you go to Hilton during those old days, these guys used to have, for example, some back door. The customers in this case here would not see raw fish being brought up into the hotel. All right. And of course, even the guys who bring up from their dressing, everything, there is a lot of value happening there. But if you look at Mama Kibanda, the Kibanda, ladies and gentlemen, the Kibanda, why they can't be able to increase their price, their inbound logistics are all gotten wrong. You are here eating fish prepared very well. And then in this case here, you have one supplier just working with big fish, right? Inbound logistics is very, very important. How you package everything, ladies and gentlemen, is very, very important. Inbound logistics is very important. So in this case here, when you talk of micro porter value chain, even in your businesses, ensure that, ladies and gentlemen, you get everything right, especially if you are in manufacturing, hospitality, you must get everything right. Otherwise, you'll not be able to charge a premium. You'll do business year in, year out, but you are always poor because you have not known how to add what year value, how to add value. So inbound logistics, that is all about how do we bring in raw materials, what quality of raw materials are we bringing in, blah, 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 like that. From there, we go to the second primary activity, which is operations. Now, in the hotel sector, we are looking at how the cooking now is done. If you go to Hilton, you want, in this case, ladies and gentlemen, to check their kitchen. I like actually the kitchen of this hotel. How am I forgetting in this? Most of these big hotels now, they have gone to what we call open kitchen, where you are able to see, ladies and gentlemen, how your food is being prepared. If you go to Kibanda, Mama Kibanda, as much as they are making very good fish, can they allow you to enter their kitchen? Can they allow you to enter their kitchen? No. No. So in this case here, during operations, you must do your things in a smart way, in a smart way. In a smart way. So when we talk of micro porter, this is something that I've also used at RCM many times. So operations, ladies and gentlemen, please ensure that when you are doing your things here, you should be able to use open door policy. People should be able to see how you are doing your things. Outbound is now looking at how do you serve like now this food. Look at the plates. Look at the plates, ladies and gentlemen. Look at simple things. Outbound logistics. Utapata hapa waiter anakuletea chakula kama na sweat. Ye mwenyewe amekimbizwa hata juu ya mwingine anamuita lipa, mwingine anamwambia wewe ni fala. Hiyo ni mama kiosk. But you see, ladies and gentlemen, if it's Hilton or some of these big five-star hotels, even as a customer, they cannot allow you to make noise. They cannot allow you to make noise. Those big hotels, especially like now in Dubai, Dubai, we have what we call fine restaurant. In Kenya, I doubt whether there is a fine dining restaurant. In Kenya, you can go to a fine dining restaurant and then you start eating using your hands, using your fingers. Fine dining restaurants, they cannot allow you to misbehave. So you can't, in this case, just start calling waiters. It is never allowed. Once in this case here, you want to order, if it's something that you are not there is a way you put your cutlery. And then somebody will be able to pick that this guy wants something. All right? That's what we call fine dining. All right? All right? So everybody is at peace. So during this service time, people are happy, everybody. But mama kiosk, the kibanda, there is no value addition. I mean, you would want to finish your meal, even in 3 minutes, you run out because there is a big problem. Hata niliona mwingine amekula mahali pengine, ana sweat, mpaka kwanza anasimama huko nje hata hajalipa. Hiyo ni kwa kiosk. So in that case, then, that explains the price differential. Why this guy at Hilton is able to keep on increasing prices and the mama kibanda hapa ni problem. Hata hiyo price karibu ashukishe chini. So unapata, for example, like hizi duka za chips. Hebu angalia duka za chips. Unapata duka ya chips zile kuna kula kitambo ni 100 bob, paka wale hizi ongeza bei. Whereas KFC, they are increasing the prices every day. And those guys, in this case here, they're having customers who are queuing outside there. Actually, they increase the price and they reduce the quantity. Nowadays, ukienda KFC, unapewa chips kama hivi vidole yangu. Vidole 4. Chips 4 hivi umepatiwa na ka drumstick. Unaambiwa enda, lipa 475. It's because of the value chain. They have understood the value chain. They know the little things to do in between here to ensure that they can easily get money from customers. All right? So, ladies and gentlemen, we have in this case here, marketing and the sales. Let me ask you a question. The Mama Kibanda, ako na website. Mama Kibanda ako na website ya kumarket yeye. Hana. Hilton naweza kosa website, haiwezi kosa. And every time they take pride in whatever they are doing. So in this case here, every time, for example, there are guys who are bringing in like raw materials, they have a very good videographer who takes like this. They have a YouTube channel. They have a Snapchat. They are nowadays on TikTok all over talking about, for example, today we had these guests coming from the United Nations and they were able to eat like this. You can see how they are queuing. They really know how to market themselves. Mama Kibanda ako pale tu chini. The only thing anafanya ni kuleta kazi. Unajua biashara sio rahisi. You can, ladies and gentlemen, in this case here, your own business can make you a slave. If you're not careful, somebody who is in their own business, they do business every other, they don't even have leave days, etc. They can't afford even nothing, trust you me. And it's simply because they are getting their business models in a wrong way. They are not marketing. For example, even if you're running an audit firm today and you're not on TikTok, you're not on Facebook, what are you doing? That is why when you tell me to come to your office, you'll be able to take me to an office in Mathare North, which happens to be on the 7th floor of some dingy area. Because I mean, you are locking yourself in the dark room. You don't want to expose yourself, regardless of where you are coming from. It doesn't matter, ladies and gentlemen, in this case here, what you do. According to my Kopota, so long as you are marketing is a primary activity. Marketing is a primary activity. All business that market, in this case here, they are able to do what here to do very well. A very good example is RCM. RCM, I believe right now we are the best in marketing. The numbers that we have, even Strathmore cannot match us. If you look at numbers like BDA in this case here now have 500 students in total. Which college has those kind of numbers? It's because we are good in terms of marketing. We have about 10 marketers. So marketing is a primary thing. This thing ya kusema kwamba chema chajiuza ati kibaya chajitembeza, ati chema chajiuza kibaya chajitembeza. Siku hizi hata kama ni chema namna gani, hata kama mnasema ati mali safi chito, lazima utoke nje utembeze ndio uweze kuuza. Otherwise itakuwa international disaster. So marketing is a primary thing. Then we have, of course, after sale services, ladies and gentlemen, like Hilton, wherever they are, they fear food poisoning a lot. Those guys can do anything to ensure that after eating from their restaurant, you will not have problems. Mama mboga ajuangi. After that, ladies and gentlemen, we have the support activities. So support activities, these are very important. You draw them up there. We have the farm infrastructure. Like myself, I'm among those guys who really cried when Hilton was closed. Why? Because I used to go up there to their swimming pool, right? Just take a cold Coke with some slices of water, lemon, fruit, of course, in glass, very cold Coke. And I would sip that thing with my laptop like that, working a few things here and there. I loved the ambience up there. I would, in this case here, be happy paying 500 for that Coke, unlike going to Mama Kibanda, to the Kibanda, because Kibanda, there is no infrastructure. So infrastructure is very important as a secondary activity. Even if you are doing these other things down there very nicely, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't have infrastructure, if you don't have technology, you must always strive to develop your technology. That is why as a RCM, we are thinking quite broadly. That's why, for example, yesterday, we were hiring primary school teachers. Because now we are getting like this Safaricom black box, which wants to contract us to be able to now push these products, in this case here, to the bigger market, bigger audience. So we're looking at technology. How do we get, in this case, even a better website? All right. How do we make our LMS stabilize? Like this semester, for sure, our LMS has stabilized. Let me ask you a simple question, ladies and gentlemen. The Kibanda kiosk, do they have a human resource manager? Tell me the truth. The Kibanda kiosk, do they have a human resource manager? Do they have a human resource manager? It is the only lady there who is doing accounting, doing everything. No. So in this case, there is no way you'll be able to, human resources are the most important resources of any business. As I told you, employees are the kings of the business. Once in this case, we take care of them very well, then automatically they will be able to give They will be able to give the customers, they'll be able to give the customers their very best. And then, of course, there must be procurement, which looks at the fact that we are able to get what here, we are able to get high quality products, etc. So, ladies and gentlemen, these secondary activities, they are arranged horizontally like this because they serve all this. They serve all this. So should they bring anything about Potter's value chain, mwanzo lazima ukue at a position of drawing this chain. And of course, inserting these names like that, inserting the names like that. And of course, once you have this all right, then this red profit here margin will always be decreasing. Otherwise, you'll find yourselves in losses throughout. So please, if you're in business, this is a model I would always want you to consider. Look at it seriously, like every other day. If ladies and gentlemen, in this case, you have an employee who does not understand this, always try to show them this thing is very, very important. Regardless of how small you are, you can easily rise to become a giant in the industry. Actually, even in East Africa, you can easily rise. There is big potential, big potential. So it's called what here? The value chain. Michael Porter. You know, some of these models here, you may not even be able to talk about like which topic, but generally you'll get them in your past papers. But basically, when you are scanning the environment, etc., decision making, yes, strategy, you need these models. You always get them. You always get them in your exams. And you can use them to answer case questions. Like in the case question, when I see somebody mentioning that as per Michael Porter's value chain, a company should be able to do this and this. And I can see my ABC company question in the case is doing it right as per Michael Porter. So it's very important. Ladies and gentlemen, with your permission, I would beg to go to another model. This other model, ladies and gentlemen, is known as the BCG matrix, Boston Consulting Group. Please take a snapshot of this Boston Consulting Group. Take a snapshot. Take a snapshot very fast. I want to go to something different. And once you do that, you should be able to put thumbs up. You should be able to put thumbs up. You should be able to put thumbs up. BCG matrix. In terms of strategy, I must always know the BCG matrix. All right, so thumbs are up there. This blue thing, I love it, BCG matrix. Boston Consulting Group matrix is another very well-known analysis tool. Note that it is sometimes known as a portfolio analysis tool. And it makes sense to use the BCG matrix if there is more than one product, like supermarkets, in this case here, make use of this BCG matrix. Now, where you are seeing market growth, this is supposed to be advertising. We are seeing market growth. In the brackets, you're supposed to be talking about advertising amounts. Advertising amounts. Now, ladies and gentlemen, here, we have what we call relative market share. This is supposed to be into bracket revenue. Allow me to interpret for you this. I love this, is very interesting. I wish they bring it this time around. Revenue. So this revenue could either be low or high. Advertising amounts could either as well be low or high. Now, look at it this way. We have a product that we are really advertising in the market. We are really advertising in the market, but there is no revenue, or rather revenue coming out of it is very low. Revenue coming out of it is very low. So in this case here, that means that we meet at this quadrant. This is the quadrant where advertising is very high, and then, ladies and gentlemen, revenue is low. If you look at this quadrant, advertising is high, but revenue is low. Ladies and gentlemen, assuming today you are a great mom, you've given, in this case here, birth to a baby bouncing boy. So this boy, of course, at first you'll strive to give them your very best. Umempatia maziwa hata yako, unampatia Cerelac. Hiyo ndio advertisement kwako. Yani umejaribu your best, umefanya everything. Input zako ziko high kwa mtoto. But every time in this case here you go to the clinic, unaambia mtoto ako 6 kilograms. Kala ka graph kako juu. Kala ka graph kanaonyesha angekuwa 13. Yeye ako 6 kilograms. Then automatically, ladies and gentlemen, that kid will be called a problem child. A problem child. So problem child happens whenever the advertisement amounts are very high, but the revenue coming from this product are very little or zero. Then I'll be able to get, in this case here, what we call a problem child or a question mark product. RCM, we also have some fear over our failures. Like, for example, for so long, I'm an ACCA member. We have tried pushing ACCA course in the Kenyan market. It's like it's not really picking up. So in this case here, ACCA is a problem child or a question mark product. The same case with CIFA. I don't know what is happening with CIFA. There is a semester we used to have like 100 students. But of late, I don't know whether it's failure rate or something. Of late, CIFA is a problem child to us. We are advertising it the same way we are advertising CPA. But I mean, CIFA uptake is very, very low. The revenues you're getting from CIFA, I mean, we end up paying lecturers more than the revenue you're getting from CIFA, like that. Very, very important for us to appreciate or what wanna fail. Maybe the reason what wanna fail. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you allow me, I'll be able to go to the next quadrant. How do you interpret this? Let me see this, whether there's anybody who will be able to interpret this star. How do you interpret this star? In regards to advertisement, remember market growth is also known as advertisement. So star, the quadrant star. So advertisement is very something and revenues are very something. How do you interpret this star? So I can see everything to do with the star is high, high, is high, high, is high, high, is high, high. Everything about star, the market growth is high. And then, of course, we have, ladies and gentlemen, the relative market share or revenue is high. And this happens so much a lot. So you get yourselves, in this case here, you are marketing your products highly, and then you're getting God's favor that you're also able to get what here? Lots of revenues, lots of revenues, lots of revenues coming, lots of revenues coming from what here? From that product. Look at, for example, hii sabuni ya mwosho moja. Sabuni ya mwosho moja. Mnaijua? Sabuni ya mwosho moja. Ulikuwa umemarket sometime back a lot. Mnaijua sabuni ya mwosho moja? Mnaijua kweli? Ni kama wasichana hapa wajaitumia. Aerial, yes. So Aerial is one of those brands that were really being pushed in the market aggressively, and they were really giving their owners lots of revenue. So then that kind of a product that is being pushed a little bit and it's shining, we call it a star. We call it a star. Like at RCM, our star product is the CPA course. Is the CPA course. Our star product is the CPA course, because for sure we are putting in lots of resources to advertise it. And we can see every time the revenue from CPA is growing by the day, is growing by the day, is growing by the day. But now, ladies and gentlemen, there are other products again. Let me see whether you guys are able to see this, to see this, to see this, to see this. Look at this product. How will you interpret, in this case here, this product? How will you interpret this product? Cash cow, cash cow, cash cow, cash cow, cash cow, cash cow. So the revenues are high, the revenues are high. And then at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, we are not advertising at all. We are not advertising at all. Or the advertisement there is very little. But revenues coming from these products are very high, are very high. Ladies and gentlemen, if that happens to you, then automatically you should be very thankful to your God. Because I mean, this is going against the dictates of the Bible. Because in the Bible, you're supposed to sweat to earn. Even Quran, I believe that should be the case. But here now you have something that is simply giving you milk. That's a cash cow. You're not working in this case. It's a cash cow. It's a cash cow like that. All right. At RCM, among us, of course, the RCM's umbrella, we have in this case here, Aura and company, CPA. Of course, it's not like a subsidiary. You know, like the college is a subsidiary. We have the publishing is a subsidiary. We have a physical class college is a subsidiary. Okay, Aura is a bit different, but I find Aura and the company to be like a cash cow to us. There is very little advertisement. You know, audit surveys are not supposed to be advertised at all. So there is very little advertising, if any, that goes there at Corner House, right? But when I look at revenues, I mean, like we currently are doing something for some business here. I mean, you just get one business, and whatever income they give you can be able to cover the entire what, like rent and I mean a few things. So to me, that's what a cash cow. And of course, I'm preparing it for my retirement. For my retirement, I'll start being very serious with it from age 50. I'm retiring at age 50 from this active life, and then I should be able to now retire to auditing, consultancy, advisory, service like. But for now, it's a cash cow. I can't lack a few coins out of it, and yet there is no advertisement. And then, ladies and gentlemen, we have got these useless things here. Useless things here. We are not marketing at all, and there is no money. There's no money coming out of this. We call these one dogs. We call them dogs. Dogs. We call them dogs. So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know whether you could be at a position of remembering how this BCG matrix, if somebody asked you a question on BCG, are you able to remember how BCG matrix is drawn? Of course, you can interchange these things the way you wish, but at least you should be able to. So of course, in terms of strategy, like dogs, you divest. If you have a dog, you're trying your best. You realize it's not really picking up. Then you stop marketing it permanently. Just divest it away. For question mark, if you remember, ladies and gentlemen, this question mark, the one that you're giving Cerelac, just continue pushing it. If you give yourself some time, like a year or two, if you can't push it to become a star, then automatically you let it go to the dog status, and then you divest it. You can't have a question mark product forever. You can't have a question mark product forever. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, at least you have been able to get some kind of what here, an overview, some kind of an overview, so that this examiner cannot get you off guard. Especially these two models, I would want you to be remembering them in the context of the case. Try to see where you'll be told in this case that this product is not moving. They're trying to market it. Just mention straight away if it's not moving and they're marketing it, it's a dog. Give advice there. What would we expect if it's a dog? I mean, an advice in this case here would be, I mean, whatever little resources you're putting dogs, let those dogs starve. Sell that product so that those resources can be channeled to the star products, Even cash cows, in this case, you would want some kind of little resources. I mean, even if you have said don't advertise, but because they're giving you something, there is maintenance. So, ladies and gentlemen, please, I'm waiting for you to give me. So cash cow, no advertising. Let it die. So can I go to the next concept, ladies and gentlemen, please, with your permission? Remember, it's just a high level. Great. Ladies and gentlemen, there is something that guys normally don't get right. This concept of change management. So change management, I would want us to go to the Lewin's. You know Lewin? Dr. Lewin gave us two things. He gave us what we call the force field analysis, and then there is another one that he gave us. So I would want us to go through force field analysis right there, Lewin's force field analysis theory. Lewin's force field, the force field analysis theory. Analysis theory. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when anybody talks about Dr. Lewin's model, the force field, what comes in this case here to your mind? What always comes to my mind whenever they talk about Dr. Lewin's theory, force field, is our national politics. Because under Lewinian's theory, we shall always have two types of forces. We have the force that is for something to be done. And then we have on the other side another force which is against, a resisting force. So I'll always think about our national politics, and I'll be able to see the two forces that are always fighting to attract attention of what here? The citizens. Force field analysis. And then remember what Dr. Lewin said, that now rise above the two forces. You are the manager, you are the president in this case. Then you ask yourself, what will you do? You know, these guys in this case, ladies and gentlemen, who are for you, who can take up a bullet on your behalf, the one in this case who are supporting your agenda, they also need to be motivated somehow. They need to be motivated somehow. So you need to, in this case, identify those, I don't know whether they are called togegas or whatever. These guys use very bad names, but we shall overcome. So identify in this case here the highest sycophant, the biggest sycophant, and ensure that always you are throwing something to them and ensure that they make lots of noise. Spoil them, spoil them, spoil them. And then on the other side of the coin, the resisting guys, ingia battalion yao, get in this case here to their side and steal a few from there. It is Dr. Lewinian's force field analysis model. All right? Because at the end of the day, we'd want to break that resistance so that you can have like 80% of the guys. I'm telling you, if Dr. Ruto today was not using Lewinian's theory, this guy, by today, he would be out of power. But he has known how to use this Lewinian's force field analysis very well. That's why, for example, from January, he's introducing 2.75, going to this, I don't know whether it's shift thing, 2.75%. And you can see these guys are very bright. They are now quiet on the cap. You know, initially they're saying that it should be capped. So if you're earning, say, like 700,000 or whatever amount, 2.75% of it could very easily go to government. I mean, he's introducing taxes left, right, and center. But he has known how to work with especially the two National Assembly houses. I mean, there is no bill coming from the national government that can ever. So he has known the craft of what here, Dr. Lewinian's force field theory. So, ladies and gentlemen, here I am. As I mentioned earlier, the normal assumption is that change will be resisted by employees. And even if it's not resisted very strongly, there is likely to be a period where employees are nervous and there'll be a certain amount of disruption. It is important for companies to try and manage change so that disruption and resistance are both minimized. There are a number of techniques that can help. The first one shown here is Lewinian's force field analysis. We have the forces for change. The forces for change. And then we have forces resisting change. How I wish they took this as yellow. This should be UDA. This should be UDA. And what is your aim as a manager? Aim for the forces resisting change is to weaken resistance. Weaken resistance. Ingia, for example, kama ni hii kitu ya whatever national dialogue, ibata Kalonzo, iba ya Kalonzo, weka ndani, weka yeye kwa UD or wherever, give him something. Like siku hizi Kalonzo amekataa kuwa watermelon, amenyamaza kabisa. So Lewin says that one side there are forces for change. The assumption is that these changes will set up forces resisting them. It could be just individual employees who object, or it could be more highly organized through a trade union or works council. The wrong approach, according to Lewin, is for management to push very hard one way, because the chances are that the forces resisting change will just push equally hard the other way. And the whole conflict escalates so that there is a serious risk of industrial unrest and strikes and work to rules. Lewin says that instead of taking on the resisting forces head on, management should aim to weaken resistance to change. And how do you weaken resistance to change? Number one, communication. Most of the guys in this case who are resisting change, it's only that they do not have information. So you must be articulate. You must be a very good communicator. You as the president, come and make a very humble appeal. Tell people that there are two ways of financing a country. It is either debt or equity. This, in this case, is the capital structure. Borrowing debt, of course, in this case here, ladies and gentlemen, is unsustainable. Now it has reached that time where we must support our country through our own contributions. You are the owners, you are the shareholders. So please pay equity, pay equity. So communicate very well. Often resistance to change is there because people simply don't know what is happening. They fear for their jobs, but perhaps there are no plans to make anyone redundant. If people are worried that they won't be able to cope with the new system, you can say that training will be provided for everyone. Communication should also include reasons why change is needed. In this case, even at times, even if there are fake calls, just stay at State House and make calls. In this case, to people who are pretending that they have really gotten, no. You could say to people that if we don't change, we can't compete. If we can't compete, there'll be a contraction of the business. Participation, ladies and gentlemen, one of the ways of ensuring that we have this resistance really going down, involve like the opposition. Bring this national dialogue thing. Have them in this case here participating. They'll feel to be part of the team. They'll be able to understand the business model. They'll be able to understand the bottom-up business model. If you explain to people why change is needed and then ask them to make suggestions about the change in the structure of the company, a kind of bottom-up, I had not even written this, a kind of bottom-up approach, it is subsequently quite difficult for them to object to suggestions that they have made themselves. So we have participation and we have communication. So ladies and gentlemen, whenever they talk about Lewinians, force field, where people are fighting, what is it that you will always remember? In your own understanding, Lewinian's force field, what will you be able to remember? What will you be able to remember? I will for sure, in this case, scroll up in a minute. Weaken resistance, yes. Weaken resistance, communicate, and then we have effective communication, participation. And you can see some case questions that we have, ladies and gentlemen, in your past papers. Most of them are about what here? Resistance to change. So please ensure that you quote Dr. Lewin. It's called Lewinian theory stroke forces field to curb resistance from change, enable communication and participation. Yes, he's called Kurt Lewin. Thank you so much. So have you understood this thing somehow? At times we talk too much thinking that by raising our voice, you understand better. But I could be making just noise. Thank you very much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please, with your permission, then I will be able to go to the next model of Lewin, which in this case is the easiest amongst them all. It's called the Lewin's three-step approach. Lewin gave us two things. He gave us the force field approach, and he gave us the 3 steps. I like this because where I work, we do a lot of change management, There are companies we have gone, ladies and gentlemen, to install, because I work for a software company. We have gone in this case here to companies here to install our software, and then at times you're even chased away and you are a vendor because employees hate you from the word go. Why do they hate us from the word go? It's because they think that our software is coming to chase them. All right? So in this case here, then Dr. Lewin had something for us. He came and told us that for you to be able to manage that change, there are always 3 steps here. First, management must first unfreeze the current situation. Remember, kila mtu ako na baridi pale. So what do? You break the ice. You must do what we call an icebreaker. So breaking the ice, tell everybody what is going on. Don't in this case, ladies and gentlemen, hide anything really. No, tell everybody that now where we have reached, we must bring these machines that are supposed to pick tea. Explain to people why change is needed. Get them ready for change. Ideally, get them ready to embrace the change. So in this case here, you can get your ice from the fridge, and then you say, I'm breaking this ice. I want this thing to be a liquid, because it is when it is a liquid that now change can happen. You know, if you're a liquid, it can go anywhere. Any shape, can take any shape. Now I can twist it the way I want. So the first thing is to unfreeze. Secondly, now that this thing is in form of a liquid, what do? You put through the changes now. This can be a relatively long period where people will have to perhaps undergo retraining and restructuring. Wakati shakuwa maji, even if you had given them promises that they can't be fired, I mean, what is automation for? So long as you do it in a humanly, as much as possible way, then it will be okay. So you must do restructuring. But at the end of the day, because the system is new, when still they are fresh like that, you must retrain. And then, ladies and gentlemen, once in this case here now, everything goes perfectly the way we had planned, now we need to refreeze. We take this thing back to the refrigerator. We make it ice again. There are people who have got problems. There are people, ladies and gentlemen, who have got problems. You'll get somebody who wants to make a change. To make a change, I've used this example for the very first time, and again, it is coming to my mind, which is very, very bad. I'll never use it again because I don't want it to happen to me. Assuming again, ladies and gentlemen, that I wanted to marry a second wife, right? You know, there's a big change in the family. So there must be that position where I must prepare my family that there is another human being coming. It's not an easy thing. So I must break the ice. So these guys have accepted. In this case here now, my second stage, these young people, they must also be told, I mean, this is how you're going to behave. Very, very unfortunate thing. So in this case, when they're at liquid stage, now I make the changes. After that, now this is family. She is now on the table. Now I need to go back and refreeze everything. Refreezing means what? That now we have to remain constant for some number of years, like 1 or 2. There are people now, again, who keep, like they'll bring this second wife. Again, they would want to bring a third wife, like immediately. Then in that case, you are not a good student of Dr. Lewin, because Dr. Lewin wants you to do this thing gradually. So in this case here, number 1, you start by breaking the ice. The ice is in now water form. In water form, now you can make your changes in between there. And then number 3, you refreeze, you refreeze, you refreeze. All right. So in this case now, have we understood? Have you understood these Lewinians? So, so perhaps I should, I promised this lady that I was to move up, but instead of me, I mean, keeping up, giving you a chance of doing a screenshot, where can't I take like 2 minutes? I just attach this book here, you take it. So third, refreeze the situation, let things settle down. Have a period of calm where things refreeze and become stable in a new environment. Above all, make sure that people don't slip back into old patterns of behavior. Old patterns of behavior. Great. I'll be able to go to your past papers and you'll be able to see, ladies and gentlemen, the kind of things I've attached here, how good they are, how they'll be able to help you guys. All right. So then, ladies and gentlemen, let me just do the sharing right now. Moses, no, I can never go for a second wife. That will be the worst mistake that I can ever do in this world. Worst mistake. In this economy, you'll not be able to give your kids the very best. Farida, we shall overcome. We shall overcome. Farida, we shall overcome. You know, getting married to somebody like me will be a big disaster. Somebody does not have time. Like there is one day, I remember I took my madam and kids out for lunch. And then those days I used to teach at Besta University. So then I went to the car, picked my scripts for students, and then I started marking them for meza. It is that bad. It is that bad. It is that bad. Lazima upate uvumilie sana. Uvumilie sana. International disaster, international disaster. Wanasemanga watu wako workaholic. Even where I work, people wonder I work because I'm able to do things at night. I'm really focused on my job. I'm really focused on my job. Hata mwingine alikuwa akinipigia jana, niambia mwalimu, napiga simu sikupati. Sikupati. Received. So please download now, and then you can share amongst yourselves. You can share amongst yourselves, including students in other groups. Yeah, Rosemary, you're right. That's one of the things that I struggle with. Work-life balance, I'm not very good, but we shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. And mine is very bad to the extent that, for example, when we are closed, like now over December, I must look for neighbors around here who have children in secondary school. I start teaching them for free because I even dream at night teaching. Mine is at another level. I can't stay like for 2 weeks without teaching. So I don't know whether it's sickness. I must be having a problem. Yeah, like the other time I was teaching your children for free, primary school, kids. Bibi atapotea, hawezi potea. Bibi nimempatia mali mzuri hawezi potea. It's passion, yes. It's passion, yes. And I know it will take me to places. Yeah, for society. That is it, yes. That is it, yes. So have we been able to download the book? Can we continue? Can we continue? OCD can exhibit in different ways. I don't know whether it's OCD, but I love my job. I love my job. Great. So can we... Gladys has not seen it. Somebody sent to Gladys. Maybe Gladys, you can put your number here and then somebody will be able to share with you. Somebody will be able to share with you. Share the book on WhatsApp. Somebody should be able to share with Lillian. Actually, if I were you, I would have shared just on WhatsApp groups, even in the normal class, because those are still our friends. Work group. You're talking to them, they also need to pass, so that they don't have time to join here. Done. Thank you very much, Kevin Wanjala. You don't disappoint. You normally don't disappoint. Great. So can I continue? 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 Yes. All right. Thank you very much. When we talk of projects, like at my workplace, ladies and gentlemen, we do lots of projects. We do a lot of projects. And these projects that we have, how would I call them? If, for example, today we got a job to install our software at KCB, so then that automatically becomes a project. Why is it a project? Ladies and gentlemen, this is not something that we do like every other day. Like the other day, we got a job to install, ladies and gentlemen, a software at IGAD. IGAD is the International Government Authority on Development, the smaller version of AU. This is the first software that we are installing in an NGO. In an NGO, we have never done that before. So meaning that this particular project, then this particular activity is a project because it is non-routine. It's out of our normal, usual routines. So if you're asked about the characteristics of projects, first of all, they're really by definition non-routine. They're not your usual day-to-day kind of things that you do. They're different from one's day-to-day activities. They will have specific starting and end points. So whenever I get any project, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll be able to show you in Jira, we call them Jira and Wiki, I'm supposed to do like what we call a project plan. So a project plan, I'm supposed to have all activities. So for example, as I go to install a project, like for example, at IGAT, I'll have to do like an entry meeting, just like in auditing. I have to do an entry meeting. So in this entry meeting, I would want to understand exactly, already we attended They addressed their things, for example, on paper, but it's always important to do an entry meeting, even to better understand your client. So in this case, you have those activities, We should be having a start date, and of course, end date must be there. Ladies and gentlemen, secondly, they are usually addressing novel or unique challenges. Novel means unique, something which you haven't done before and will probably never be asked to do again. Like I don't foresee Arrow getting another NGO in the near future. This is quite a new project that we've just gotten here. So, ladies and gentlemen, can only be called a project if in this case here you are coming to do what is something very new, independent of the other things. Projects usually have project teams. So there must be a team leader and of course having members. And the team members will normally be from different departments with different backgrounds. So these people may have different priorities. They may want different things from the project. They will use different terminology. They will have different outlooks. For example, different attention to detail, different sense of urgency, different attitudes towards quality, and they differ in views on cost. Ladies and gentlemen, please listen and listen to me very well. And I'm using this case of IGAT. When we go to IGAT to do this kind of a project, there must be a lawyer to look at all those contracts. Anytime in this case, ladies and gentlemen, we hit some milestone, for example, you have reached some level, as you're celebrating, the lawyer has to look at those documents. Where are we? Are we on schedule? Do we have, in this case here, any penalties associated with the delay of the project? So in this case here, the lawyer should be involved. There is no project that doesn't have a project manager. There must be a project manager, right? What is the role of a project manager? To ensure that everything is under control. Communications, coordinations between the different groups. There will be an accountant, of course, to ensure that we are able to get financing as we progress, etc. So we are saying that a project must have a team. And this team membership is drawn from the various water departments. We must have some members from the IT department, etc. So we have what we call a project team. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the other characteristic. Fourthly, for most projects, though not all, there is no benefit until the project is finished. Just like, for example, you start doing a building. This building you're doing is a project. You can't tell me that you'll start, in this case here, you'll start earning when the building is half. Are there people in this case, ladies and gentlemen, who normally start renting out buildings when they are still partially complete? I hope they're not here. I hope they're not my students. Because this being a project, I have to do roofing. I must do the entire finishing. And then I should be able to start letting out a complete house after I get a certificate of occupation. Otherwise, we normally get ourselves into various risks, all right, without knowing. Unapata tu nyumba imekuwa half, unaweka watu ndani, ile siku moja jamaa anafanya mawe kutoka juu, pangala kichwa ya mtu, and then you are told to give this family 20 million. You start stressing out, you die. And I'm the one who is teaching you advanced financial management. Why can't you just take this land and whatever, where you have reached this house, if you have a credit history, go and take a loan and just finish the entire house nicely? Because construction has got its own fair of what here, challenges, risks. All right. So in this case here, the project can only give you fruits if it's fully complete. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I know there are other characteristics. I would want to see whether there are students who can remember the characteristics that I've given them there for projects and even give me their own characteristics. I'm giving you 2 minutes. I'm giving you exactly 2 minutes. Projects. Now, and routine, I love that. Addresses unique challenges, consumes time and resources. There must be a time frame. Addresses unique challenges. Value will only be derived upon completion. I like that, Moses. Non-routine, starting time, ending time. All right. So let's not, unless you explain that. They have fixed budget. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You guys are brilliant. You guys are brilliant. Now, the last thing that I would want to look at in terms of projects, I know you guys are very good with this. I know you guys are very good with this. Strategic plans. This comes every time in your exam. Strategic plan, which of course will be for a 5-year period or even a 10-year period. A strategic plan is typically for a 5-year time horizon, and for whole organizations to implement that as a single task is impossible, and it must be broken down into a series of smaller tasks. Each task is a project, and each will have a planned start date, duration, finish date, relationship to other projects. There must be a cost. There must be a project manager, outcomes. Of course, there must be what we call stages of a project. The stages of a project can be described in a number of ways. For example, initial screening. There must be a stage where we do, in this case here, the stage of a project can be described in a number of ways. For example, initiation, initial screening, risk assessment. There are 4 responses to risk. Of course, when the risk is high, we can transfer. We can avoid. We can try, in this case here, to reduce it. And then, of course, there are those risks that you must accept and live with it. Live with it. Ladies and gentlemen, remember, whenever they talk about risk management, we use what we call the TARA model. The TARA model. We use what we call the TARA model. How does this TARA look like? TARA, whenever they talk of risk management, we have the famous TARA. We have the famous TARA, where T, in this case here, means what here? Transfer. T means transfer. Like, for example, when my vehicle is on the road, this is not a risk I would want to undertake. If I get into an accident, that can be problematic, ladies and gentlemen. These are risks I should be able to take to an insurance company. If it's a bigger house, transferring the risk could mean I even bring in a subcontractor. All right. Then, ladies and gentlemen, in this case here, we have here this A. A, of course, is avoid. I would rather not do this project. I would rather not do this project because of what here? High risk. Like the other day, there is somebody who was telling me, Mwalimu, why don't we open a big pharmacy store? Kamwambia, hapana, I'm not a pharmacist. So that's a risk I'll not want to be fighting with this body. So in this case here, TARA. TARA is a risk management model. Is a risk management model. Then, of course, we have reducing the risk. Reducing the risk, for example, is what I teach you in AFM, hedging. You can hedge. You can hedge the risk. All right. And then we have A. A is accept. If the risk is reasonably small, you don't have to insure. If you are to insure everything, ladies and gentlemen, then you really not get the benefits of insurance. It's very costly. It's very costly. So please, you should go to an exam. Whenever you hear of them talking about risk management, don't forget in this case here to mention TARA model. And of course, you know the full meaning of TARA. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no way we can do like at Arrow. At Arrow, we can't get into any project without doing a business case to the board. So if I get a project, like I'm the one who brought in the IGAD project, what I did was to do a business case. So on the business case, I'll come and say, this is the project, I describe it. This is the cost. This much they are paying. We should be able to have all those NPV computations, everything, and of course, risk assessment, business case, so that the management can sit down and say, does this thing make business sense to us? Yes or no? Then we have the project plan has to be there. And then we have execution. Then, ladies and gentlemen, we have what we call monitoring and controlling. And then, of course, lastly, we must talk about what here, the exit plan, closing. These are very, very important stages. Very important stages. Don't get into a project without looking at risks. Don't get into a project without knowing about who is going to do what. So the execution stage has to be there. And then, ladies and gentlemen, if you allow Mwalimu here, I can see charts there. Otara, transfer, avoid, reduce, accept. Thank you, Lenovo person. And I hope you can relate this with the description that I gave. Now, I would only want us to do one thing, but that will come after our break. So we take a break over how many minutes? We take a break over how many minutes? 5 minutes as usual. So we shall come back at 12:25. 12:25. Great, 5 minutes. We've spoken about, there are things that this examiner will always ask you. What is the difference between monitoring and evaluation? What is the difference between a project and a program? So we start with monitoring and evaluation. We start with the monitoring and evaluation. We start with the monitoring and evaluation. Difference, is there somebody who can give me key differences between monitoring and evaluation? When I was in the construction sector, M&E, continuous review, thank you very much, M&E. When I was in the building construction over 20 years ago, I remember I was a clerk of works for some project. It is during those days that I knew the difference between monitoring and evaluation. The word monitoring means that this is continuous. Every day I'm reviewing. I'm the investor's eye on the ground. So I'm doing monitoring. What is the contractor doing here? Have they mixed, in this case here, this concrete in the proper ratio? Is it a 1:2:4? If it's reinforced concrete, or is it just the one for the normal slab, 1:3:6? So monitoring, like Faith is telling us there, is continuously keeping track of what you are doing. So this monitoring is normally done by internal persons. Even the contractor himself, this contractor must be having the team leader, who is just a manager at the top, who is looking at what these other guys are doing. So they are monitoring every other day. They are tracking the progress to ensure that everything is under control. Evaluation is very, very periodic, and normally evaluation comes with a milestone. So in construction industry, once you finish the substructure, you've done the substructure nicely, you've excavated for trenches, you've been able to lay down your foundation, you've been able to lay down your foundation wall like that, you have even covered everything with the slab like that, you've put everything there. Then now you call an external person contracted by the owner, an external person like an architect, like an engineer, civil engineer, depending on the size of the house. If you're doing like a kibanda kind of a house, don't start calling engineers. All right? So for evaluation is basically very periodic, and it depends on the milestones. So when you do, for example, something like this, you are told at this point, there must be evaluation being done. And remember, evaluation is always important that evaluation, there must be a certificate that is issued by this external consultant. It is this certificate that, for example, the contractor will use to do his invoice. And I would want to play some little video for you. Here. It's my hope that you guys love cartoons. It's a 2-minute video. Please be keen. Share sound, it's here. ME stands for mountain elevation. So number one. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of this thing. From this little presentation, honestly speaking, what have you been able to understand? Monitoring. Ing means a continuous. I don't know if it's continuous participle, something that is ongoing every day. Evaluation, normally if it's a road, we shall wait until you, for example, do what we call soil stabilization. What we call soil stabilization, you've been able to. Unajua kwa engineering iko mambo mengi sana. Unajua for example kwa engineering barabara ikuangi flat. Barabara inakuwa na kemba, so that in this case when water, water is the enemy of any road. When water falls on top, it should be thrown to these other sides, where in this case now we have the drainage system like that. So then after you've done stabilization, you've been able to put the cement here to ensure that soil will be stable. Then you call experts. The soil testers will be able to come from the government lab. Wanakuja unaona barabara inaenda kuisha, lakini wanatoboa pale fulani, wanatoboa tena, wanaenda kutest, waone kama the soil now is stable. So they are doing, in this case here, evaluation. It's an in-depth assessment done by external consultants. So at least that one ikija, utapata something. Sini ukweli? At least that one ikija, utapata something. The one that I know many guys do not know how to differentiate is program vis-a-vis what year? Projects. Program vis-a-vis projects. I'll give you 3 minutes. You try giving me the difference between a program and a project. A program and a project. Not many students know how to differentiate this. A program and a project. A program and a project. Understand the difference nicely. Just 2 minutes video.
Is not something that's going to take a lot of kind of brain power to consider, but it's really
great.
Worth kind of diving into before you write grant proposals or before you go out and create messaging for your organization. So let's just simply look at the difference between a program versus a project. The easiest way to define the two or differentiate the two is a program is something that is ongoing. So if you have an after school program, it runs, it's an annual program, even if it stops for the summer, if it's something you do consistently and it's an annual or seasonal thing, then that would be a program. A project usually has or always has a set beginning and end date. Now, some people say, well, our after school program begins the first day of school and ends the last. That is different because if you're repeating it every year or every school year, then that is a program. Project, definite beginning and end date. Some people will say projects are short term. That is usually the case, but sometimes projects take longer. If you're working on a capital project or a construction project that might take a couple years, well, it's technically a project. But it's not necessarily a program. It's a beginning and an end date, and you have an end result, which is usually a product. So when you think of a program, you think of the people, and a lot of times a project might be an end product or an end result there as well. So program versus project. And you may say, okay, why does this matter? If you are writing a grant proposal, some grant donors will say we fund programs. Others will say we fund projects. You need to be able to define what yours is and be consistent in your terminology throughout your proposal. Now, that being said, you can get creative. If you have a program, then each line item could specifically align with a project. So I'm going to give you a quick example of something I would do to raise dollars for an after-school program that I managed for many years. The after-school program had lots of different components, from academic to cultural to enrichment, all kinds of things. And many of the small grants in the community, maybe small community foundation grants, only wanted to give
Great.
500.
I think, ladies and gentlemen, from whatever we've been able to hear from this great lady, can help us understand this difference very well. All right. When you go to the United Nations in this case here, they have programs. For example, we have what we call HIV and AIDS. They have a unit there. They have a program on security management, where in this case here, we have a team of people. When this team of people reports at UN, then they talk about security every other day. The department is hiring like that. So that's a program which basically is long-term. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to project, of course, they are ad hoc. They have a start time. They have, in this case here, an end time. All right. These are not our usual day-to-day thing. These are not our usual day-to-day thing. So whenever we talk about program, and I'm so happy to see that you guys are able to, basically, you are able to basically give me the differences. That is so nice of you. That's so nice of you. At least this one, we are comfortable. Project can be managed by outsourced personnel, but program is internal. This is very good. Project, you can bring in, for example, if you have a housing project within UN, you're going to outsource that entire thing. But if it is the security department, it's being done by internal people. I love this. Very good points here. Yes, a program can also be a collection of what here, projects from what that lady has told us. But of course, a project then is a standalone thing. A project exists for a short period of time, while a program is continuous in nature. I love this. Thanks, Mercy. A project is a group of activities focused on achieving a specific objective. Programs are permanent, continuous activities. Projects are what are temporary. You guys are very good. Project is time-bound, while a program does not have a timeline. Project is a single focused effort. A project consumes resources, while a program guides on how resources shall be managed. That's quite complex. A program is a collection of projects. I think with whatever I've been able to read and whatever we had that lady mention there, we are set. So the only thing that I would want to show you guys before I release you, I would simply want to show you something very small here called a business case. You must have seen a situation where the examiner wanted you to define what a business case is for the projects. So I hope you are able to see You are able to see my screen. So a business case should be prepared for any project. This will show how profits can be increased in a profit-seeking organization, or how service levels could be improved in a not-for-profit organization. So at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, you want to show that this project is profitable. So then in this case here, the possible techniques that you can use, you can do a cost versus benefit. It's going to cost us 10,000 and the company will be getting this as benefit. You can decide to use net present value. You can decide to use sensitivity analysis. What if this changes and I'm calculating my profits there, forecasting techniques, expected values. I can as well use decision trees to help in this case here, buttress my arguments to these bosses. So we are told here, ladies and gentlemen, that usually costs are easy to budget. However, often benefits are intangible, such as customer service level, and are much more difficult to quantify with any precision. Now, ladies and gentlemen, in this case here, I don't want to read through this, but I just wanted you to appreciate here that concept of what here, business case, basically where you're supposed to kind of justify. Does this project make business sense to the board? If it doesn't, then these guys will be able to reject that. And if you don't mind as I disappear, it's important I speak about this project initiation document and the project plan. So project initiation. The project initiation document addresses who, why, when, how, what. It's an immensely important document and accomplishes the following. It defines, in this case here, the project, its scope, and its deliverables. It also, just like in the business case, it also justifies the project, the cost-benefit analysis, the risk analysis. It will help us, in this case here, secure funding for the project. It defines the roles and responsibilities of project participants, the sponsor, the manager team. It gives people the information they need to be productive and effective right from the start. Assignments, schedule, human resources, project control, quality control, etc. Ladies and gentlemen, a project initiation document is an extension of the business case that you give the board. Although now this one is beyond the board. Now here, ladies and gentlemen, you are basically addressing the stakeholders here. And you would want, in this case here, to have a definition of the project. You must justify why are we doing this. You must always keep on doing this justification. This thing will help you secure funding. It goes ahead to define the roles and responsibilities of all the project participants. It will be giving people information they need so that they will be productive for coordination purposes, etc. etc. So the project initiation document defines the project. It sets out the scoping. The scoping is normally done there. Only by setting out deliverables in advance can we possibly judge after the event whether the project has been successful or not. It justifies the project both in terms of cost, benefit analysis, and also risk analysis. Remember, a project could potentially show substantial benefits, but if it was at a very high risk, we might prefer not to embark upon it. If necessary, we have to secure funding for the project to see it right the way through, bearing in mind that most projects yield no benefits whatsoever until they are completed successfully. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, you'll always get these kind of questions. Like you'll get somebody asking you, what is a project initiation document? What will you be able to tell them, ladies and gentlemen, you great students? What is a project initiation document? People who are in monitoring and evaluation, they call it the PID, project initiation document. What will you be able to tell me is a project initiation? It normally comes at the beginning, before a project starts. project initiation document, which basically forms a very good foundation for your business project plan, for your project plan, for your project plan, for your project plan. Initiation, from the word initial, you're initializing the project. You're initializing the project. All right, I've covered so many things, ladies and gentlemen. I've covered so many things, ladies and gentlemen, today. If you're keen enough, whatever I've covered now, if I give you an exam, great, great, great. It justifies the project, outlines the scope, deliverables of the whole project. A document which defines the role of project participants, great. It sets out the scope and deliverables of a particular project. It defines the project scope. It answers the 4 W's, justifies the project. Thank you very much. We'll be able to do what? At what stage? Thank you very much. So then if you allow me, for the sake of this class, I'll be able to take you through what we call the Michael Porter's 5 forces. The Michael Porter's 5 forces. Are they ready for this? Michael Porter's 5 forces. Michael Porter's 5 what here? 5 forces. The Michael Porter's 5 forces. The Michael Porter 5 forces. Whenever you're doing business, there will always be 5 great forces which would want to drive you out of the industry. Imagine you're just starting a business, just like a good fella, a good ninja. But we have, in this case here, forces that are really determined to push you out of business. And most of us are really pushed very easily out of business. Which forces are these? And you need to understand them so you can stand against them. So for example, we have the concept of new entrants. New entrants. You can imagine, for instance, your Bamburi cement. And then we have Aliko Dangote coming to Kenya. When just Aliko Dangote came and landed, if you remember very well, in Kitui here, and just showed that he had the signs of starting a cement manufacturing plant in Kenya. I mean, the market got very confused. He even went ahead to say that, you know what, my cement is high quality and I'll be able to do what you to charge 400. So power of what here? New entrants. New entrants in this case here can push you out of market. Power of new entrants. Never joke with new entrants. New entrants. Just like, for example, we had a new entrant into the taxi business, Uber. Uber has been able to knock very, very big brands from the market. Like now we can't hear of Kenatico. I used to be a member of Kenatico for so long. All right, you can't hear about them. So power of new entrants. Now, ladies and gentlemen, from there we have, in this case here, rivalry, the existing competitors. Existing competitors, should they grow a little bit, if you're not careful, they can as well, in this case here, push you out of the market. They're called Michael Porter's 5 forces. And that is why we talk about every often, like as RCM, we're interested in knowing what our competitors are doing. We're interested in knowing what our competitors are doing. It's very, very important. Because if you're not interested in benchmarking with them, then these guys can easily do one thing like this, and then they give you a hard kick. They give you a hard kick. You get yourself, in this case here, outside what here? Outside business. Ladies and gentlemen, we have your suppliers. Your suppliers, of course, they know how you are doing as an individual. These guys are supplying you these things, and then you sell. They are also monitoring you. Those guys, in this case, here, can squeeze you out of business. How do they do it? They'll come one day, they put you in ransom. They tell you, I've been selling this thing to you at 10, now you want 20 shillings, and you can't transfer that increase in price to your customers. So your suppliers can squeeze life out of you and send you away. These are very serious force, Michael Porter force. They can even decide to switch allegiance and work with your competitors. So I have always to be cognizant of that risk. It's important. I should be cognizant of that risk that these suppliers of mine, even if we meet and take a kanyama choma, one day they may decide to throw me under the bus. So as I think like that, I'm always told that I should diversify my suppliers base. Never ever be happy. If you have one supplier who is supplying you like 30% of your commodities, of your raw materials, you will be in trouble. Try in this case to advertise and have a threshold that at any given time, I must have like 20 different suppliers. Even if one of the suppliers is your brother, there's a big risk there, a big force there, a big force there. And then, ladies and gentlemen, we have in this case here, second last, buyers. Like now as a RCM Online College, we are very happy because our buyers are spread across East Africa. Like in this case here, for me to see whether I'm talking the truth, can you kindly mention the county where you are following us from? The county, which county are you guys found in? Which county are you guys found in? Which county are you coming from? Which county are you coming from? Siaya, Nairobi, Kiambu, Kericho, Kilifi County, Kajiado, Mandera, Uasin Gishu, Laikipia, Isiolo, Homa Bay, Kakamega, Cliffy 003. At least I've crammed that one. We have Winnie from Migori, Mombasa, Kirinyaga, Mombasa 001, Andrew 003. That is what here, Kilifi. At least I've known that. We have Tana River. I hope, Farida, you are safe. Because Tana River, around there, I'm so sure there must be some flooding, but we shall overcome. If you're in class, you're safe. We have Kisumu. Kisumu, I want to believe Kisumu now is a good county. When I went there the other day, I was bitten with by a lot of mosquitoes here, but I know right now things are good in Kisumu. Under the able leadership of Professor, things are good there. Taita Taveta 006. Wow. Yasin. Great. West Pokot. So you can see, ladies and gentlemen, when we have our buyer base diversified like that, it means that we shall be in business for long. Ukiwa na one customer, one we call the major customer, one of the fine days, like now, look at what is happening with government. We had most of these big companies depending on government. Now, this government, they have pending bills all over. They have been able to put very many of these contractors under the bus. Never rely on one supplier. Is there somebody in this case here who can relate with what I'm talking about, that they've been having, not supplier, but customer? They've been having one customer or two. They've been having major customers. And then they got into problems because of having very few customers. At least I have Salome there. Yes, you should never allow yourselves in this case. If you want longevity, you'd want to be there in the long term. Always ensure that you are advertising a lot for you to diversify your customer base, for you to diversify your customer base. Otherwise, there is pressure there. And when they are going to your competitors, they normally pass by your doorstep as they wave and the catwalk majestically. And there is nothing you can do because you can't force a customer to buy from you. So it's a serious force. It's a very serious force. Now, ladies and gentlemen, lastly, we have the power of what here? Substitutes. The power of substitutes. Don't joke with substitutes. Substitutes can throw you under the bus. Like in terms of teaching, ladies and gentlemen, we used to have traditional classroom setups. And then now Zoom gave us a substitute. And for us, we jumped into Zoom. And I want to believe anybody who was left with the physical colleges, most of those guys are really suffering. So substitutes can come and take over. Even universities are normally passed by some universities, like, for example, Embu University, and I can see those guys, ladies and gentlemen, they are doing what here. Those guys are still putting up big, big buildings. No, in the next 20 years, ladies and gentlemen, we shall not be having physical colleges, not even for medicine. in the next 20 years, people will be studying from home with those virtual reality lenses. Remember, when you have a virtual reality lens, you'll be able, virtual reality, like this traveling. If I have a VR lens, and I'm connected to those softwares, I'll be able to take a tour to Egypt. I'll be able to go, in this case here, to Egypt, in this case, observe those pyramids, etc. I mean, things are changing. Like when you wear these VR goggles, you'll be able to get a dummy customer, a dummy patient, and then you are able to do operation on them. Like if, for example, like now next semester, we are introducing this VR service, and I would want to give VR, 4 of them, to individuals who will help me do some research. I'm doing some research, which I would want in this case here to give to government. I hope I can get even some funding. Strathmore stopped having pure online classes with this training season. Yeah, I am. You can see. Thank you. Great, great, great. Now, ladies and gentlemen, with those VR, when you wear those VR lenses, for example, you can have a dummy classroom. Like this dummy classroom, like right now, of course, I would be somewhere like in a physical classroom, virtual class. It's a virtual reality. And then you can come and say, Farida is seated next to me, another person is seated like that. And then we study together. And then we are even able to watch the same videos as if we're in a classroom setup. I mean, things are changing. Like right now, let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. By 2030, if you will not be literate, if you will not be having digital skills by 2030, you are not going to be working. Digital skills by 2030. If it reaches 2030 and you don't know advanced Excel, reaches 2030, you don't know the basic digital concepts here. For example, you can't do like basic website. You don't know how to do these remote jobs. Like myself, I'm working remotely. All right. By 2030 technology is taking over, and you guys will come to tell me. Like the other day, I was, it's already 100. I was in Dubai. I mean, in Dubai, things are happening there. The transportation, everything in this case is being run by water technology. If they bring that model here, like policemen, say 10,000 of them will not be having what to do. And of course, by 2030, LinkedIn says 85% of work in 2030 is not created. No, I'm not 85% of work in 2030 is not created now. I'm not so sure of what the sentence there is not very clear. Moses, you may reach out to me later. So in this case, ladies and gentlemen, the power of substitutes, that we are having robots coming. These robots are going to take over our work because they are substitutes. There is pressure there. And that is why if I were you, I would really work so hard. Even myself, like right now, I'm studying so many things. At night, I'm not sleeping pretty. I'm not sitting pretty because I know by 2030, I will be irrelevant. But if I work so hard and become among the few to have broken the ice, then I will be in the money, because they're telling us that by 2030, it will be a knowledge economy. By 2030, we will not be very knowledgeable. The way we have now moved from industrial revolution, we moved from agrarian. Now we are going to, there's a time they told that oil is the engine of the economy. Oil, in this case here, was wealth. Any country that had oil, in this case, ladies and gentlemen, was very wealthy. Now we are going to knowledge economy. A knowledge economy, knowledgeable individuals like myself will be very rich. Amen to that. I'll be rich. And if you'll not be knowledgeable, you'll be a chokora. Sorry for using a very, very bad term. We must strive with this YouTube and the many other, like now I'm here as your mentor. We must strive to get knowledge that is beyond, because substitutes are coming to take our jobs. Thank you so much. Be blessed. I'm looking forward to now getting into past papers so seriously from tomorrow. I just wanted to videos. I'll tell you in the group. Sanane, we are having our AFM